Welcome to the November 11th Jalen Zones production user call. We have Alexei, Philip, Jamie, Dan, Jan, Mark, myself, Michael, and we had Fu earlier in from Thailand. And heads up, I might be missing the calls for the rest of the week thanks to jury duty, but I might also get canceled and show up just fine. I don't know. I have a quick little broad point to share. There was a FreeBSD summit just the other day, and it was once again quite good. And in the course of it, I talked to some fundraising folks and sponsors. And so it looks like the BSD TV AV work that Patrick and I have been doing actually has some track record. We've used the original package that cost about $5,000 at 5 events in 4 countries. So that amortizes to like 1,000 per event and dropping. So as Michael Gillespie put it, that's the AV version of there is no cloud, just someone else's computer. So yes, thank you for everyone who's made that happen, and we will continue to keep those costs down by selectively purchasing items. From the summit, as Philip noticed on the stream, there was a comment during a panel discussion of there should be a jails meeting and I don't know, architecture planning, etc. And someone mentioned there might be a either jails Friday or office hours or something. I can only speak for this event, and if this needs more promotion, then please people promote that where appropriate. I'm gun shy on being loud and such about promoting events. Anyway, oh, Fu is back. Welcome back. So then let's get into the actual topics. Philip, did you come away with anything else from the stream? I did my best to keep
Well,
track in the
I'm
room, but hey, I multitask the way I multitask.
I'm still watching it, so I'm not done watching all the whole thing. But basically, some of the things related to jails were uh, having every single service by default starting in its own jail. So in the init system in RC, any service that is uh, a FreeBSD service, uh, and I don't know the practicality of that. I just know that what I've
It's
been
not.
doing. Okay. I've been,
So that
pushing
Let him
whole
finish.
components. Yeah. Well, I've just been pushing whole components. So say a web server or an email server or a database or whatever, but that's not each service like by default. It's manually making a jail and running, the whole thing within there.
so starting with FreeBSD 15, there will be something called service jails, which is a hacky thing implemented in the RC scripts as a set of common functions to put services into a jail with the jail root being the same as the system root. So you have no file system isolation, but you do have process namespace isolation, so the jail service cannot send random signals. Okay, that's not much of a protection. What's more interesting is that several non-security kernel subsystems are knowledgeable about jails. For example, resource limits, which means that you can then apply resource limits to services which run under multiple user IDs, for example, an FTP server, and if you have a very old school deployment, or an IMAP server where every user is a full-blown Unix user. But you may still want to treat the whole IMAP service as a whole, as one entity to apply scheduling restrictions to bandwidth restrictions, memory restrictions, stuff like that. Where it wouldn't be that easy to do if they actually set UID themselves, sorry, set EUID themselves, and so on. Yeah, there are use cases for this, mostly around service management, I would say. It's less of a security feature, as long as you're sharing the file system, because you can do so much harm just through the file system. Just imagine modifying front tabs or other periodically running scripts, someone's shell login files or logout files. It would be very easy to turn file system write access into code execution outside of your jail.
Sharing the host root file system seems completely counterproductive, given that.
Not for the things I
For me,
explained when it
so
comes
yeah,
to applying, for example, giving the service its own VNet so that it has
got
its own
it.
routing
Okay.
environment. So
Hmm.
there's a bunch of things around service and network management where it can be totally worth it if you don't want the rest of the user land, you don't care about securely isolating it,
Right.
you want the manageability service features of jails, not the security features.
What are some more examples? VNet for
Uh,
routing.
yeah, VNet would be a great example. You want the
Hmm.
jail service to be only available through certain interfaces or have its own routing tables and so on.
Okay. Other examples?
Do we want to
Yes, Mark.
do we want to consider the OCI containers as well?
That's a good
Uh,
question.
That's just a complicated way of starting a jail or
I know
installing
it
a
is,
jail.
but at the same time, it's a level of organization as well.
Oh, yes. And that's its killer feature. The ability to have a file format agreed upon to specify a jail, which is not specific to a single jail manager, is worth something. The exchange between hosts is, in my opinion, where all the existing jail managers effectively break down, which is what OCI offers, so that I can have
And we can take
my
and we
specification, turn it in the specification into an image, and then deploy the image to several hosts.
Yeah, and we can make it the benefit of a container as well is we can throw arguments at the container to change behavior as opposed to going in and reconfiguring the jail. So like if we can
Mm,
have an init script that rewrites the configuration with like just any other Docker container, and then you mount the file system and whatnot, yada yada yada.
mhm.
So
Um,
the more the orchestration, more the configurability, the more organized and flexible.
I would argue that since we have uh, includes with glob, it's in FreeBSD 14, you cannot do that with just jail.conf and conditional includes. And the way the jail.conf late resolution of variables works. But
Yeah,
the OCI is more structured.
yeah, like
OCI
using
specification.
the composed like Podman compose akin to Docker
Mhm.
compose, and you have one you could have one central config file that lists all your containers and all the properties, and then maybe even a wrapper script around it to deal with secrets and whatnot.
Yeah, this kind of stuff is why I'm pushing for the executable jail.conf, but I missed the window for 15. So what I have prototype, but didn't get in time is support for having jail.conf files which are executable,
Yes, we
and
know.
then having the jail command execute them and pass the standard output as a jail.conf so that you can query databases or have format conversion from, let's say, UCL to jail.conf.
Great. So is that in your court or Jamie's court?
I would say by now it's in mine
Okay,
because
well then wrap it up and there's always another release coming. So let's circle
exactly.
back to the the notion of jailing based services. Uh, I heard mention of init, and are we thinking the entire host init would be magically in a jail? Is that a wise thing? Are there precedences for that? What's it look like? And
I think Jamie
Well, I
has
think
done
it's a
something like
wise
that.
thing.
go ahead, Jamie.
Constant, I think it's a wise thing. Constantine apparently does not.
Okay.
Um, he he said, you could have an init that is a jail-aware program that runs as init. He is 100% against, he said, repurposing the reboot system calls to do the right thing for jails. I have asked him why, because I cannot see the point of being 100% against something useful. There is precedent in that when I was at Vario Web Hosting 20 years ago, I did this for the jail-like containers that we had. And it ran until I left the company 10 years ago with thousands of customers. So I know it's a thing that can work.
Do you have snippets of code remaining from the good old days?
I do. I have a diff file that I've kept around. And so granted, it's what at least worked 10 years ago. There have been some changes since then, but it really shouldn't be too much of a deal to drop much of that in. And Vario as a company is no more, so they're not going to care
Get
about
upset.
the intellectual property.
Yeah, no kidding. So that said, you seem to have sort of an oldies but goodies collection, including the PID1 remapper and other stuff. How large is this cache of oldie but goodie utilities that you produced long ago when hosting?
Most of it is already stuff in jails now. The two
Okay.
things that aren't are the init stuff. Well, three things. It's down like Spanish Inquisition here.
Yeah.
The three things that aren't there are the init hack, a completely different SUID system that we came up with that I think is nice and secure, but is so totally outside the mainstream that it has nothing to do with jails in particular. So
Yeah,
I'm not
okay.
going to worry about that. And some a copy on write symlink hack that we put instead of in the file system layer like a Union FS, we put it actually at the vnode layer, which I think is kind of neat, but is also a very large, very different than anything else thing. But as far as the stuff that really maps to jails itself, only the init is still among the useful things.
Well, and now the jail. Well, are there one or two things here? The SUID hack and the jailed init. Those are different topics.
Those are different topics. Yeah.
Okay, got
The
it. So,
SUID hack and the copy on write magic symlinks are nifty things, but not something that I would really expect to be putting into FreeBSD. The init hack, on the other hand, is something I see as more generally useful.
And these conversations with Kib, were they public on the mailing list, and did other people chime in?
No one else chimed in answer to him. There was, yes, it was asked on Arch and Jail's mailing list, and someone said, "What do you think about doing jailed init, basically?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm actually totally planning on this. This is going to be a thing." And Kib chimed in and said, "I'm against it." And yes, all of that. And then I just, in a few minutes ago, replied and asked for clarification what he's against. All of that is on the public lists. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The S6 process supervisor, which is just a package installer array on FreeBSD,
Yes.
has an executable which is intended to be used as PID1 on a system where you use it as the init system, but does not require to run as PID1 to work, because communication with init is not done through signaling a well-known PID, but through writing to a named pipe. So you don't have to signal a magic PID one or have something receive the signals you send. It's fairly common to use inside of containers because it's small and allows containers to contain multiple processes with supervision, so that if one of them dies, they get restarted.
So that said,
And
did you see a recent discussion of like OCI containers in S6 that prompted this getting on the schedule
was
here?
brought up in exactly the thread Jamie just mentioned
Oh,
on FreeBSD architecture mailing list.
got it. Thank you.
Um, it's just
But
that
by
my
jailed,
Thunderbird is
Yes, Antoine Dake. What you
but
propose?
by jailed list by jailed init, Jan, we're talking about the same thing that we talked about 2 weeks ago, right? Like an init that looks like an init process, but in a jail and has children similar to how we see on the host. Yeah.
yes.
And one
Okay.
motivation was the system D in a jail under Linux compat such that it's happy and doesn't blow up the world.
Yeah, but that
Yes.
there we don't have a design decision. We can only do it or not do it because it has to be compatible to code we cannot change,
Hmm.
even if it is open source. So if you want systemd inside a Linux branded jail to work, you have to make FreeBSD look convincingly enough like Linux.
What's
You
missing?
won't, for example, that inside a jail you can't have a PID1.
Well, that was the whole point.
And
What else?
yeah, exactly. But having a process which takes the role of an init, as in collects zombies, can be done with subrepos. A process which launches everything can be done with a proper service supervisor. So if you want to do it yourself and not because you have to run this existing Docker image, then you have design space where you don't need this. You can do it with something like Run It, Daemon Tools, S6. They don't rely on being paid one for the supervisor.
Hmm.
The
Yes, I'm
the
just also
the
interested in the drop it in and it just works angle of things like systemd.
Yeah,
the the interesting thing that though in the OCI ecosystem, most people luckily don't use systemd. So they're either running a single binary or they're running multiple services, and most people are already using something that doesn't rely on systemdness, like OpenRC, for example, is very common when they build an image that needs to have an init system, right? So that's kind of to our benefit if people are interested in the OCI ecosystem as a whole.
So OCI folks generally are not using system D by default. Let's stumble on that.
Yeah, typically,
What do
not
they
always,
typically
but
use?
typically.
so if you
They
have a well-designed
One at a
container,
time.
it won't use systemd, but there are very big applications which don't care and just ship something like Debian or even Ubuntu Server as their base image. And then that has systemd as a hard dependency.
Alrighty then.
If you're running something small like Alpine as their base image, then it will work.
Okay. Jamie, are there variations on that thought that are worth exploring, or it's sort of, that seems to be a good idea, but people don't like it. Move on.
No, it's that seems to be a good idea. People don't like it. Work on trying to convince them.
Okay. I guess everyone think about how to pitch that.
Yeah. So if there's new thoughts coming out, it will be as a result of such discussion.
Yeah,
Well,
jailed init is really nice as an administrator, because then like if you do PSAUXD, then you would see the process to read jailed. You know what I mean? So like that alone is a major benefit to as an administrator to see that.
Yeah.
Well, you'd only see it being PID1 from the jail because you're not going to have
Yeah,
multiple PID1s.
yeah.
So that would also be an argument then for writing or extending the jail command to something which you could call jailed, a process which shares the lifetime of a jail. on the host, which kind of does all the stuff, responds to events. So if the jail gets auto-destroyed, the jailed process would get an event via a K queue, and then it would run the post stop and release hooks and do the other jail cleanup. You can kind of hack this thanks to Jamie implementing jail-uppercase C for event cleanup in 15, at least, so that you could do it via devd if you have a kernel module for it, or I can share my watch example, which doesn't require the kernel module to get the event.
Interesting. Well, keep the research coming and just report back. That's
So what would be nice is
nice.
then if you do a PS3, every jail is represented by a jail process on the host, and then an init process in it, and all the processes would be properly parented under that, instead of each the jail processes dangling up to the true system init process. So if you do a PS on that on the host, you just see a bunch of cron Ds and syslog Ds uh, as children of the real init system. And in the jail, it's not a tree of processes at all. It's a forest because you have a set of trees. No, that's the correct terminology.
I love it.
Forest is
Oh,
a
that's
set of
great.
trees. Just like you can have something like an Active Directory or Kerberos forest, where,
Hmm.
which is not what a bunch of truths expect, because now you have several top-level processes inside the jail, which is a bit confusing and annoying because just it breaks conventions. You can totally work with it, and people have done so.
Is there another OS that gets that right, be it G Plan 9 or Nix or something that just is a promised land in this regard?
Not that I can think of.
Well, let's be the promised land. So, circling back to the summit, gee, Philip, you did pay attention, and there were some great discussions about CHERI and CheriBSD. Um, I don't know if jail is purely orthogonal to their under the hood mountain moving, but what are your takes on
Yes.
it?
Well, I'm just in the middle of watching Brooks Davis's presentation, so I'm mostly done with the video watching from the second day. But
Hmm.
my thought is one of the reasons for using jails is to give some sort of isolation. But the Cherry project is very interesting in that it gives the hardware component to make sure that there's memory safety. And if you're looking at especially like IoT devices or devices that are in an environment that they could get manipulated by somebody who is physically able to access the device. Thinking about all the I think in the healthcare area, so all the
Yeah.
physical sensors and devices and stuff that are all over the place, that if those get manipulated, that's a foothold into the local network. And
So
so, yeah.
I've watched multiple of the CHERI or CheriBSD talks over the years at various events, and read a few of the white papers. So what I can say is there is the full-featured CHERI, which focuses exclusively on 64-bit architecture and can preserve your normal Unix system semantics to the degree that the diffs is less than 1% of the code size. So that stuff builds and works according to their claims. And they have shown live demos of FreeBSD on Morello running with graphical acceleration, and they can build Chrome.
Yep. And
So,
he gave a demo off of it again. Go ahead.
but so this assumes the full 64-bit address space, because to one of the trade-offs they make to have kind of a hardware extension to the instruction set so that you can make effectively C an almost memory safe language. It makes it expensive to invalidate address space. On a 64-bit system, you can just ignore the problem because you have enough address space, and you can asynchronously in the background kind of do a garbage collection cycle to make sure that the address space you're reclaiming has no valid references to it in the form of capabilities. And if you have no capability to the address space anymore, then it's safe to garbage collect because the process cannot have the capability to access that without faulting. Then this address space is available again, same as a non-moving garbage collector would work. But for 32-bit systems, the assumption is that the address space reuse has to happen too quickly to make this a good approach for a general purpose Unix-like system. But apparently Microsoft is very interested in making this work for real-time operating systems. It's then called CHERI IoT. It's an extension to RISC-V codes. And if you don't need the normal Unix fork semantics and happy to accept that freeing memory can be a bit either expensive or have variable latencies, then you can make it work. And this is kind of where you would have something like let's say the size of an ESP32 or something, and it still needs safety. But if you have physical access and are able to glitch the CPU, CHERI isn't really going to protect you much.
Okay, save it for the
You
hardware
need,
call.
yeah.
So, do you look for the jail overlap with such things? Naturally, we all want to have more tools in the tool chest. Mark, any
What
topics? And Jan, we can circle. Oh, go ahead, Mark and Jan, if you've got more, you can have the floor back.
I don't really have much to contribute today.
No worries. I know the feeling.
So the conclusion is just that CHERI helps make C and C++ safer a lot without costing much performance if we could get the hardware. But there is no hardware you can buy. You have to back ARM to become kind of a development partner to get
They
hardware
announced
right now.
a new chip that's available, and it will be expensive, but it's around. It's available and or coming available. And they did find that they are finding bugs in existing software and upstreaming the results, regardless of it being on the hardware. So my small fear is that people will just thank them for being another fuzzer and like, yay, great, thanks to the bug reports, and we don't care otherwise. But no, Brooks was pretty sure that this is still the way forward. Anyhow,
So especially for
yes.
something like in the medical space, the big advantage of CHERI would be that you can reuse the existing C and C++ code out there in the world and still proclaim that you have a memory safe system.
Hmm.
So if it gets accepted as an equivalent to basically rewrite in Rust, you don't have to because hey, we are only running this on memory safe hardware.
Right.
Then this could, for example, allow someone to develop a safe medical device much faster than just rewriting everything in a
Yeah,
safe
everything ever.
language
Yep.
in a clean room implementation and still claim memory safety.
Cool. DVL, do you have anything to report on?
Nothing jail related. No, nothing.
All righty.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
I just
That,
remembered.
yes. What did you remember?
etcrc.conf can contain a list of jails to start.
Oh,
Yes.
Of
with
course,
what
jail
And
underscore
prefix?
list.
Oh, jail
yeah,
list. Okay.
I'm just pausing. Hold on, I'll get to my question soon. How does that interact when you have a list of jail configuration files in etcjail.conf.d? That
Correct.
rc.conf is the list of is how you enable and disable the individual configuration files. Is that correct?
Yes. So if you don't have a jail list variable set, the jail command will run everything in
Okay.
jail.conf.d. But if you do have a
What?
jail list, then it will only start the ones that you have specified, and the other ones will not be started. Now, there is also a bit of a trick to it, as far as I understand. You can also have etc jail.conf to include all of the jails, and also have jail list. What will happen then from my experiment is, yes, you can use .include in the jail configs, yes. What happens there from my experiments that I tried is that it will first execute, or rather start, the jails in the jail list, and then in the end, it will run the include. Now, that's actually a neat trick if you have this idea of, okay, I need these jails to start first and then the rest. So that's kind of a neat trick to do that.
No,
But what?
that's a disgusting hack which is not needed.
It is
If you
discussing hack.
have,
I'm just saying that that is something
but
that you can
there's
do.
a clean solution. You don't have to do it that disgustingly.
And what is the clean solution?
The clean solution is to
Is using
include
depend.
all your jail configurations from the global etc.jail.conf and then handle the dependencies with the depend property of jail.
Yes, that
So
would be the proper way of doing it.
there's nothing neat about this unintended side effect.
Dan, does
Question
that
about
help you in
what
any shape or form? Go ahead, Dan.
question about what Jan just said. Did you say in etcjail.conf, I do an include of all the individual jail.conf.d files? Is that what you said?
You can do individually, or you
Yes
can
One
and
at a
use
no.
time, one at a time.
Sorry.
Anjane, go ahead.
you can do it individually, or you can use a glob, so you can
Okay.
include basically
Yeah.
everything with a star.
Yeah. I like the idea of including everything and then using the dependencies.
Yeah.
Is there an individual jail, say, enabled flag? I don't think so. I think that's something that
No,
we've talked
No,
there's
there
not.
isn't, but there is not, but I think we need one because currently in Jailer, I'm basically changing the file name. I'm changing it from sql.conf to sql.conf.disabled, right?
Yeah.
But I think it would be, I mean, Jamie, you're here, you can tell. Yeah, I think it might be a neat trick to just add a single clause, which is like enabled equals true or enabled equals false. Or it should be enabled to true because that's what people would expect. And then if people want to, they can have like enabled equals false, and then the jail command would be like, okay, this is false. I'm just not gonna do anything. Like let's just move
Yeah.
on.
Enabled or
Um,
maybe auto start, because that way
Auto
you could
start is
still
also cute. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
you could
Yeah,
still
auto start.
individually start a jail if you want to.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yes.
Yeah, that
I
makes
love
sense.
the idea. I love the idea of having auto start equals true, auto start equals false. Actually, I can maybe add
Sounds a
that.
bit like
I
being
think I know the
Beehive.
jail. Yeah, exactly. I think I know the jail command enough to do that because I think I need to add it into the Lexer, right? So it can parse it and then check it in jail exec.
You would
The
add it to the list of pseudo properties.
Yeah,
So
Mm,
probably about the same way that depend is, or similar to the way depend is
implemented.
done.
Yeah, yeah.
why not intentional feature? You can already do it by enabling a jail by in symlinking, it's configuration into the directory of configuration files which get included.
I like the idea of that too, Jan. I'm not gonna lie, but that sounds very Debian people reinventing http.d folder, with their like, because they have like, this sites enabled, sites available
Yeah,
kind of thing in
yeah,
Nginx, and
exactly that kind of
yeah.
Apache logic or Nginx logic, where you have a bunch of sites defined for your web server and you symlink the enabled ones in. What's nice about doing it this way is that the symlink is easy to script, so you don't have to modify a file. It'll content and patch it. You can just create a symlink, remove a symlink.
Yeah, it actually sounds. I
But
might do that in Jailer. That might be something that like would be really very Jailer until of course we implement the OTO start feature. OTO start, right? That was the keyword. Yeah, OTO start.
Hmm.
I like the word.
yeah,
It's
the,
very, it makes sense.
the
And
limitation,
if auto start defaults to on, you do the symlinks and or the auto start. You can pick whichever one you like.
Yeah.
yeah, the problem is that auto start would have to default to true, or you
Yes.
name it disabled and have it default to false. Um, Either is intuitive, I think, but maybe a value which defaults to 0 is easier to implement, and then I would just call it disabled,
I
so
just
that
listen
it's
to
not.
what God tells me to do. In this case, God is Jamie. So,
Um,
that's.
the other thing is there is a little annoying foot gun waiting for Dan. Um, because the rc.d script to start jails has logic in it to, if you have something in the magic path, so etc jail.conf.d, then if you start the jail through the rc.d script, it will pass as argument to the jail command dash f for configuration file, and then the config file with the jail name in it. So
I'm sorry for that. Again,
if you want to
five
do
years
the,
later, I'm
yeah,
sorry for
sure.
that.
So I'm not blaming you. It was useful to people at the time. Uh,
Yes.
but now we can't remove that without creating a polar violation for anyone using the old ways. And but for now, people have to know that if you have your include here, don't name it etc jail.conf.d or user local etc jail.conf.d. Just name it etc jail.d or something, anything but that name the old mechanism uses, and you will be fine. So
I
don't use
think uh, I think Z-
jail.conf.d for your directory name
I think
if you
Zai
use
was
includes.
I think it was Zai was talking about the fact that we might need to document the all of these ways and orders that jail starts a jail somewhere, maybe in rc.conf manual or maybe in the jail manual. I'm not sure, but his idea was, oh, it would be a neat idea if we could like, document the overall idea of how and when a jail starts somewhere
I
in the
think some of,
documentation.
Is there a
coming to
blink tag
Michael's
for Google Docs?
question, um,
Go ahead.
That's very, very funny.
about Michael's question, is this documented anywhere? Some of it is documented in the mythical rc.conf man page, which
But
far too few people know about.
technically, all of it is documented. The problem is that they're documented in different places with different semantics. Let's put it that way, right? So what we would want is to have like a section that says like jail start order in like the jail man page or like the gl.conf man page. Maybe I think the GL man page would make more sense. And like have it in there. It's like, okay, here is how the GL starts. If the service is enabled, this is what it will do. If you do gl.c, this is what it will do. If you do gl.c-f, pass it a file, this is how it would act. So like, have all of those cases documented in a single location rather than multiple locations here and there.
So this is what the rc.conf man page says on
Yeah.
jail underscore list, a space separated list of jail names. When left empty, all of the jail instances defined in the configuration file are started. The names specified in this list control the jail startup order. So if you're not listed in that jail list and that list is non-empty, you're not auto-started.
Jamie, tokenization question. Can we have something like this? Auto start equals false. Is this possible, or like does it have to be the string of false?
Oh, wow, you're making me zoom on my screen here. Let's see here.
My apologies for that.
Yes, I've got it on my phone, so I normally don't.
You can have that.
Just
I mean, I
As
don't
long as
think
it's a Boolean, we can have that.
Yeah. I mean, we've got the equals false equals true, auto start, no auto start. The way that all jail Boolean parameters are, you can just you declare it as a Boolean parameter and it just works.
Okay, got it.
So
Thank you. Yeah, of course, like
you're not
VNET,
supposed
non-VNET.
to
Yeah.
double throat Boolean values.
Yeah. Okay.
The reason this topic came about is because yesterday I rebooted my main development server, and during the reboot phase, I saw cannot start jail so and so, and that's because it was a jail I had long ago removed from the host, but not edited rc.conf.
Yep. So something else you can do is, now that we have includes, while you can still do the traditional thing of having global configuration somewhere, and then just making use of the lazy evaluation of variables to access that, so that it is a default value you can override. There is a problem with multi-valued things, because you cannot clear a multi-valued variable sensibly or remove single values from it. You can only just assign it again and start a new multi-value. If you want finer control, instead of putting your global configurations or your shared configuration, it doesn't have to be global, that's never a good reason to make it this way, is you can just include the common configuration. So in your jail block, you put an include user local etc common.conf or whatever. Yeah.
I run the risk of repeating myself. Where is this documented? Because that's all lovely and about now 18 different ways to skin this cat, and that refers to a
Yeah,
caterpillar tractor, not a pet.
that one is like you read the man page and then you logically conclude that, oh, I can have common.conf or like common.include and include that somewhere, right? So
yeah, this is not where the dot include feature is documented in the jail.conf
yeah,
man page, but what you can do with it is
it's a
up
whole
to
other
the
black magic.
user. Like there is no big section of hey, here's what you can do with a kind of recommended serving sizes or stuff like this.
Serving sizes, yes.
Yeah.
On that note, with all these nifty options, what hypothetically does a jail and zones test suite look like? And I ask because I've spent a bunch of time in the OpenZFS test suite, and I will spend a bunch more time there. And I see that Oxide produced a Beehive test suite. So wide open question, are there precedences? Do we care?
Multiple questions.
Hmm.
One, from a bird's eye view, what does the OpenZFS test suite look like? Like, is it like loading, unloading kernel modules and testing them, and like creating pulls on the fly? What does it
It's
do
all the
basically?
things, and that's part of its
It's
problem.
all the
But that's a
things.
different, yes,
Oh
it's
God.
yes, and it's like this will harm your system. Have a nice day. Run it on a VM, and I'm untangling it from an outsider's perspective, just walking in the front door. And it's one of those things where everybody knows that because, hey, oh, we really just use it in GitHub CI, but that's not the question. So maybe looking at the Beehive test suite, which is in the Oxide code, is like smaller, more manageable, and what it does remains to be
From
seen.
all
But
the criticism I've heard of the OpenZFS test suite, one of the worst is that it kind of tests are expected to clean up after themselves because the test suite is unable to do so. So
mhm,
that makes it hard to write a good test case because you have to undo whatever you did to the best of your ability.
it's called destroy the
Um,
VM. Yes.
yeah, there is no destroy the VM because the test suite doesn't assume that it has a hypervisor. It
Mm,
could script to do that.
Mm,
Because
mm,
of that, it's a lot of
mm.
boilerplate and unreliability in there because, oh yeah, let's say this test uh, changed the state of the system. And so you have, if you run the test, uh, the whole test suite, it passes, but if not, you have a failure or a spurious failure to make it even worse, which doesn't happen when you run the single test.
right.
Because sometimes this other test fails to clean up after itself
Yep.
properly or something like this. That's a level of messy. Yeah.
All true.
So,
So for jail, are the regression
Michael,
tests or QA tests, KYUA, or
Michael,
other goodies there now?
so back in the Illuria day,
Ah,
the way that
yes.
we did it is that we had a test host, which could be doing other things. But the idea of the test host was we would run a script. That script would fire up Lure OS inside of a VM, Beehive.
Hmm.
It would set the IP address of the VM using DHCP. So it would like, oh, here's a DHCP server. We know the MAC address of the VM, so we're assigning it a IP address using static DHCP, and then that script would SSH into the VM and run the test in there. So, like, there are very small assumptions about the host, such as you should be able to run DHCP server, you
Yeah,
should be
sure.
able to run a VM, but it was very few. And then everything else was done inside the VM over SSH to do testing, executing the jails, executing the honeypots,
Totally.
testing dtrace, and everything else. And it was the most sane option that I found because I looked into everything else, and everything else was like, oh, I am going to run the test suite on the machine that I'm running on, and I
Yeah.
might destroy it.
That's basically it.
Um,
Yes, correct.
what you can also do is with Beehive, you have, and let's say if you know that you're running FreeBSD instead of Beehive as your test system, then you can
Yeah,
make a bunch of useful assumptions. For example, you can script the guest system console via something like GNU expect
yeah,
or
that's a
the
very good
VWAP,
point. Yeah, and MD add-in,
because
right?
you have the null modem port and you can have multiple ones. So just give it a second serial port so that the deep boot messages aren't there and are clean, so that you can capture the boot messages of the guest in a
Yeah,
file without having the interactive stuff mess it up. Then you log into the serial console and make it available. Also, because we have both NFS and more importantly, VIT-09P, you could
Yep.
make that a shared directory, even if only read only inside the guest, so
Hmm.
that you can make the test suite available inside the guest as it currently is. So
And
you
one
just make the
one
your
similar
source
thought
directory
is, yeah,
available.
go ahead. Totally, totally. We also have make fs ZFS, and you could actually create a disk image full of tests and attach it to your VM of choice, and magically have a pool full of stuff you want, or even just a FAT32 image or
Um,
something, a bit like some of that Cloudinity stuff.
and for something like running a test suite, you can
Yep.
just do your initial install of your guest, and then kind of as part of building the system, you build the base image, you snapshot that, and then you just create a clone, boot the clone, and you can do arbitrary shit to your poor little clone, and afterward you dispose of it.
And throw it all away. Exactly.
No
So,
ethical ports required to euthanize this clone.
oh goodness. That said, are there regression tests in the FreeBSD test package? I mean, what does jail get tested against somehow here and now?
I'm pretty sure that there are config file tests because I've seen those, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
Like
there
a
are
valid
I
some,
config
know.
file,
This
invalid
one's
config
this.
file.
and there are VNET tests, but I don't
There are
know
VNet
if
tests.
they're
Yes, that's true. Yes, because there's also like a global ifdef VNet to know if your operating system supports VNet, which has been the
What's the
default
timer?
since
3
11, I
minutes,
think.
15 seconds.
Yes, Dan.
Sorry.
Alrighty. So VNet test, interesting. I guess that must have come out of the VNet effort.
Yeah.
And if it's not obvious, the nexus of docs and testing are kind of highly related and highly important across all this trifecta of cool technologies. So I personally will be spending my time in there, docs and testing, for the next foreseeable future. If you want to help, let me know. So, Jamie, do any regression tests come to mind from just jail over the decades?
No, I have bad testing habits.
Ah, are
My tests are very ad hoc.
got it.
I
Oh,
think Christoph has done a bunch as part of his PF regression testing with VNet jails.
and what about, say, the Poudrier folks? Poudrier, maybe they've got some goodies. I don't know. Restoration. Anywho, just curious. Alrighty then, other topics, ideas, news, fun stuff. Comments on the summit. Comments on
Yep,
the
there's
OpenZFS
RL
event.
VNet user source tests.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. And pipe that into jail.
That's the list of
And
all
grep jail.
tests which contain VNet
Right.
as a
Okay.
string. It's lots of them.
And what about jail? So,
Implicitly, every VNet test is also a jail test.
got it. Beautiful. Alrighty. What else? Well, if that's it, that's it. I mean, I'm sure we've all got work to do.
Jan wanted me to talk about my IPv6 adventures.
Ah, are they
Uh,
jail related?
they are jail
Or do we
related, but
save it for the networking call?
however you wish.
Dive right in. It keeps coming up, and there's an ongoing debate of like, oh, just use IPv6, but oh, we're in a country that has like never heard of that because colonies.
That's
Go ahead.
funny.
What you got? IPv6.
So there's a question that we have that we've been wanting to answer, and the question is, if you have a single /64, how do you use it on a jail? Because the problem that we're having, why did my server die? Come back, server.
Those are different issues.
Yes, they are, but it's very weird. Anyway, I'll wait for it to come back. Sorry. So the problem that I'm having basically is that I think I'm having rather is if you have a single /64, how do you make the IPs available to the jail? Now, The sanest way of doing that is you have um, a VNet jail that is connected to a bridge, and that bridge is connected to the external interface. That way you can have one IP from the /64 on the bridge, and the jail would also get its own IP on the /60 on that bridge, basically. But what if you have a single IPv4, so you want to use ePair bridge, and you also have a /64 that you want to use on the external interface, not the bridge, because your bridge is like an internal network kind of thing. It's a weird problem, but here's where I'm really confused is that what was the guy named from Germany who does a lot of TrueNAS, has his own company from
Patrick.
Patrick Howson.
Patrick, thank you. Patrick, in his talk, I think in EuroBSD, if I'm not mistaken, mentioned that that's exactly how they're doing it, but he didn't mention how they're doing it.
He's not hard
Or
to
rather,
find.
yeah, I know. But so we ended up realizing that in most networks, not all, maybe not in Hetzner, but in most networks, you would need something called ndproxy as an NDP proxy, as an IPv6 NDP proxy. And we have a basic setup for it, but I'm not sure if it's correct, if that makes sense. So yeah,
Does
I'm
it
trying to
work?
figure that part out. Does
Okay.
what work?
Your config that you're not certain about.
That's a very good question, sir. I'm gonna answer you in a couple of minutes
Okay.
when my
So-
server comes back up.
On Hetzner's dedicated servers, you don't need the NDP proxy because of design choices they made in their network hardware
I see.
and configuration. So they don't care about dynamic NDP and ARP. They just do basically routing to the server port on the switch. So anything gets directly flown on the port. They don't bother with ARP or NDP. It's a fully routed network in that regard. And because of that, you don't have to run the NDP proxy. But if you do the normal thing, you will find that a lot of other hosters who haven't done this optimization, then you need to have for IPv4, you wouldn't need it because there you would just use port forwarding. But for IPv6, you normally have lots of IPs, so you don't want to forward individual ports. You want to forward IP addresses, and that requires you to act as a network neighbor discovery protocol proxy, which Andrenik and I figured out how to configure on FreeBSD, so that you can then have a VNet enabled jail instead of an alias jail, because it's easy to just configure an alias jail if that's good enough. But if your jail is not on the network and you kind of want to make it behave as if it was on the network, so that you can have a cheap virtual machine for $5 a month you rent somewhere, or even less if it's IPv6 only, and you get a single /64, you may want to do some policy routing so that you can have a server at home, for example, for the HomeNet crowd, and have incoming requests via IPv6 hit your virtual machine and then be routed through a tunnel to your home server and back, and your home server gets a /127 or a point-to-point configuration with its IP address, and it looks like it's on a global IP address somewhere, but you don't have a second prefix to actually route to. You have to make it look to the next hop of your system, so the provider's router or the hoster's router, like the jail is on the link. And for that, you need the NDP proxy. Has your server come back up, Andronik?
Yes. It turns out the server wasn't down. My Mac OS decided to ignore DNS stuff. So bravo, Mac OS.
Mm.
Anyways, this is what the configuration looks like to our understanding. Cat at crc.conf. Here's the config. Let me paste it somewhere. So the downlink MAC address would be my external MAC address. Okay, and then uplink IPv6 would be IPv6 gateway over local. Something like this, to our understanding. I'm still having issues with this. I'm not understanding the issues, but I'll come back hopefully next week with a proper answer on how this works.
And feel
And
free to
because this
reach
is
out to
a
Patrick if you need Patrick.
yeah, of course, yeah. And because this, but to be fair, one thing that Jan and I discovered is that the setup of the network of Hetzner is different, so he might not even need this per se. So yeah. And the package name is pkg info rep kmod. It's not a kmod. Okay, fine. It's just called ndproxy. ndproxy. That's the package name, which has the kernel module that does all of this.
Anything else? It sounds like you two or three have homework to do.
Yeah, a lot of work to do.
Antranik, do we owe you any congratulations on stuff and things and stuff?
On what?
Day job.
Oh yeah, I mean, hopefully tomorrow will be my first day. As far as I can
Congratulations.
tell, yes. Thank you, thank you. I will be something called a principal engineer
Ooh,
at
you get to make
at
principles.
Axient.
Oh,
I need to, yeah, I'm
congratulations.
going to make principles, yes.
Anything else,
Some people.
or shall we call it?
Yeah, just a tiny
Yes.
update for you. I
Hmm.
talked with the Collabora people.
Yes.
They haven't finished the changes that we need because they're doing a new release at the moment. But they said like, no worries, as soon as we're done, we'll do that and let you know.
Oh, cool.
So it's a new feature that they added. It's called LO Kit NS, as in LibreOffice Kit NS.
Hmm.
The NS stands for namespace, by the way.
All righty.
As in like a Linux namespace. So they're thinking of creating lokit jail, which gets called if you are on FreeBSD, and it creates a jail on the fly. That's the idea of it. The problem is that the way that Collabora works is that every time you open a document, it creates a Linux instance per document
Oh,
for
goodness. Wait,
security
what?
purposes.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
A chroot.
Okay.
It's nothing. It's a small
Okay.
chroot. It's like a 5 MB chroot. It's not massive in any sense. Like FreeBSD would be like a 10 MB chroot. Just the runtime basically, and it copies everything else that it needs. But that's the way that it's run on Linux, which works fine. I mean, honestly, no problem there. But they're using namespaces as a technology. Here, they're thinking either like not using it on FreeBSD, basically skipping that step, or implementing the LOKit GLs instead of LOKit NS.
Well, I'm sure you are
Uh,
perfectly positioned to help them with that.
yeah. The only thing is that they are in the middle of a release at the moment, so
Hmm. That's good.
they have their own business critical
Sure.
things. As an interest to you, for example, I had no idea they have a mobile app.
Yes, it works. It works on my
Yeah,
phone. It's a thing.
yeah, yeah. It's a
Yep.
thing. Like that's also something that they're fixing right now because
That's
there's
cool.
like iOS issues. So yeah. But nice people. I'll talk with them again
Fantastic.
over a Thursday and let you know.
Okay, thank you for investigating that. Well, while you have the floor, would you like the owners?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Have a great day.
And if you want to
Adios.
do this kind of application managed jail,
Jan, you are
which
so
is
young.
something we will